Now, you'll recall I've done at least 2 videos on this about the Canadians who have been arrested inside of China and the allegations by China that they've done some kind of acts that warrant them being arrested. And China hasn't been very clear on that, and it seems like a tit-for-tat measure for the CFO of Huawei being arrested. Now, some new information has come into my possession. Now, in the past, I've talked about a person who is partially connected to the DPRK kind of thing and has been a source for some of the things, including kind of a voice for some of the people who've spoken out against Alejandro in the past. But that person has given me some information about at least one of the Canadians arrested, Michael Spavor. Now, I've in the past said that this was a tit-for-tat measure, that this was a retaliatory measure, but it turns out, according to this person, Michael Spavor really was doing something that was irking the Chinese, and that the Chinese have used this opportunity to take care of an undesirable. So let me set up the whole situation here. The border between the DPRK and China is a place that foreigners are not welcome. If you're not on the Chinese side of the border, if you're not Chinese, you shouldn't be going there unless you're part of an official tourism, or you have, because you're on your way to the DPRK, or you're part of some kind of official bureaucratic thing with China, etc. In other words, people who just go to China and start sniffing around that area aren't welcome. Now, this Michael Spavor, he's there on a student visa. Interesting for a man who's older than me. Now, that is not an allegation I'm making. That's been reported in the media. So that's not just coming from me. But he's also unofficially a part of an NGO, or a part of a business, but there's no registered business there. There's a very gray, murky area as to what exactly his legal status is. Now, he has been sniffing around the border of the DPRK and China. Now, let's be honest. We know that China carries out illegal trade with the DPRK, and they should, and it's right to do so because the sanctions are morally repugnant. They're wrong. They're nothing more than tools of U.S. imperialism that, frankly, in many cases, China, being a member of the UN and a member of the UN Security Council, it has a legal obligation to follow, even though they're morally repugnant. China does carry out illegal trade with the DPRK, as well they should. This is why foreigners aren't really welcome around the border, especially when they're sniffing around areas where that illegal trade takes place. Now, this Michael Spavor hasn't really done anything illegal per se, but he is sniffing around things that are none of his business, and possibly sticking his nose where it doesn't belong. And that's why China's decided that since they were going to make a tit-for-tat retaliation, they decided to use this to get someone out of the way who's been a bit of a pain in the ass. So, now, the Western media is portraying Spavor as some kind of pure, innocent victim, a great businessman who didn't do anything wrong, and he's just being victimized by the Chinese. And until now, there was a lot of legitimacy to that, because it did seem very much that this was just a retaliatory measure for China. But, as it turns out, from my contact, he really wasn't the completely innocent person that he made himself out to be. In fact, he was very much sticking his nose where it didn't belong. And that the Chinese are using this as an excuse to clean up the border, to get rid of undesirables. So, even though I have reported different in the past, in the future I will be reporting it differently now that I have new information that I did not have before. And this, at least the Canadian Michael Spavor, is doing things that he shouldn't be doing in China, and now it seems like he's paying the price for it. Thank you for watching. If you like this program, then please head over to my Patreon page and set up a monthly donation. It's your donations that keep this program running. Also, if you would like, please rate, comment, subscribe, and share in various social media.